We are joined by Ambassador Naela Chohan, a renowned senior diplomat and expert on Pakistan's foreign policy. Welcome to the show, Ambassador Chohan. Second guest is Ambassador Chohan, starting with Afghanistan and the political situation over there. Controversy yet again. Different factions are claiming victory in Afghan elections. How do you see some sort of deja vu? You know, this thing once again, this happened before, earlier in previous elections. How do you see this?
Well, you're very right. There is a deja vu. But as far as we are concerned, we want national reconciliation, an inclusive government, and the peace process has to be incognizant with the will of the people. We want Afghan-owned and Afghan-led peace process. And we have been facilitators and supporters for peace and stability in this very important neighbor, Afghanistan.
Right. Naela, President Ghani has not been very happy with the way Americans have been handling these peace talks. He was critical of these peace talks earlier, and there were reports that at one point they thought that they were bypassed by by the United States while they were dealing with the Taliban. So much so that recently he has been challenging Taliban in the elections and saying that he would still win if even Taliban contest elections in southern Afghanistan. This aggressiveness of the Ghani administration, President Ghani himself, what do you think about that?
Well, to be honest, I would refrain from any comments on this because it is an internal matter. Of course, for them, it's easier to blow it up and, say things not very responsibly. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, I would reiterate that we want peace and stability in that country. And because of the process of elections, at this moment, each player will try to convince and also with a bellicose statement and, trying to legitimize themselves. But at the end of the day, I think it is the process of national reconciliation which is important. And like Senator Kakar said, the players might already be under negotiation, but for the public, the facades have to be different. And we have to be patient and wait and see.
Wait, Ambassador Naela, former Mr. Shah Mahmood Qureshi has said that Pompeo told me that the pathway to fixing relations between Pakistan and US came through Kabul. That approach through Kabul of Pakistan and US relations, how do you see that? Do you see that as now improving? Shah Mahmood Qureshi thinks that is improving. What do you think about this?
Well, I respect what the foreign minister says, but Pakistan-US relations are very deep-founded since the time of our independence. And they have evolved in different phases, whether we were in the alliances or we were not in the alliances, and how we developed our relationship. Afghanistan is an important, development in the current situation. And I have heard a few American diplomats say that now we are neighbors because America is physically present in Afghanistan. But in that context, Foreign Minister's statement does hold validity. But I think that Pakistan-US relationship has to be seen in its own context.
Beyond Afghanistan?
Yes.
Beyond Kabul. And do you think that is possible, let's say, in near future after this peace deal maybe, as expected? Do you see that happening?
I think it is possible. It is going on. Even in the Prime Minister's visit, I think that was very visible. Our relationship is well-founded. It has many dimensions to it. And that will continue to be strengthened because both countries realize each other's importance. In the current situation in Afghanistan, of course, the Americans have a different strategic interest because whether they are planning their troops withdrawal or they are looking for other objectives, Pakistan will remain an important country for them in that context. But having said that, I don't think it would be fair to minimize the significance of our bilateral relations irrespective of other developments.
The sustained political system in Afghanistan, Ambassador Naela, because who do you think that the warring Afghan factions at the moment, be it the political factions or the warring factions otherwise, warlordism in Afghanistan, they would all sit together, have a consensus, unity and understanding on a common goal in Afghanistan? Is that possible, and what role can regional countries play? Because parallel to the Qatar talks, the Doha talks, we see Moscow talks as well that have been going on in the past. What role can Russia, China, Pakistan, other countries play in this sustained political development over there?
Well, the regional countries have a very important role. There's no doubt about it. But it can be a positive role and it can be a negative role. And we have to be careful about the negative role. But the Afghans themselves, and you have very well identified even before, that it is very fragmented society. And the politics have, basically the politics is manifestation of that fragmentation. And if the regional countries, the neighbors, also work together, and you have seen China has played a very positive role in this. Russia is also willing to help. Western countries are also interested. If the neighbors work together with the help of the major players, we can facilitate. But I would still reiterate that the Afghans, and I think by now with 40 years of war, they would realize that it is in their own interest to go beyond their, warlordism and lust for power and work for the betterment of the country. I hope good sense prevails.
The political situation, talks with the Taliban, and then refugees coming back to Afghanistan. Is Afghanistan ready for it, Ambassador Naela?
That's a very good question, because it would also affect the demographic pattern of that society. And who comes into power, and whether they would want that particular ethnicity to gain hold is also a question that we need to address. And I think it would be a subsequent development, because the first part is that how do you facilitate their honorable return to their homeland. In that context, you have seen that the UN Secretary General was here. He commended Pakistan for hosting. Even now we have 3 million Afghan refugees. And we recently had this conference on, commemorating 40 years of refugees. It's, solidarity with them. But the interesting thing, my personal observation is that in this part of the world, we are very grounded with our origin. Whether it's Iran or Afghan or in Pakistan, no matter where you are, your roots are very important to you. That's your sense of identity. And Afghans, whether they live here for 100 years, they will still stay Afghan. They have not sought Pakistani nationality.
Right.
Many a times when our people go abroad, the diaspora becomes part of that society, that country. They apply for citizenship. I don't think any of these refugees have applied for citizenship. So it is onus on them that if they maintain their status as refugees, means that they are not Pakistanis. And if they are not Pakistanis, then they have to be governed by the UNHCR regulations and IOM regulations, and therefore have to comply with it and be supportive in the efforts of the governments. As far as Pakistan is concerned, we opened our hearts and doors to them. We facilitated them in every way, and we seek international community's support in facilitating their honorable return. But the Afghan government, given the challenges that they are confronting within, I don't know if they are ready for it or that they have actually planned for it, but it is an inevitability that they cannot, just keep a blind eye on. They have to seriously address this issue.
And on to our next topic, Ambassador Naela, Iran and the parliamentary elections in Iran. As we know that you are the first female diplomat, Pakistan diplomat, to be posted in Iran in 1989, post-revolution. Understanding Iran now, at the moment, the parliamentary elections taking place over there, the recent tension that we saw, rift between the United States and Iran, and keeping in view the regional politics, Afghanistan, and the threat that is there of Daesh, which is common to both, by the way, Iran and Pakistan. How do you see the parliamentary elections first, and then we'll discuss about the regional situation?
Well, parliamentary elections, you see, the West looks at us in a different way. But we are inherently democratic people, whether it's Pakistan, whether it's Iran, and their democracy is very well established. The current elections that are coming up are being viewed by the West in a different prism. But if we look at it in its context, there are several factors that will play a role. The first one is the recent killing of Qasem Soleimani. You could see the streets of Tehran chanting, condemning the killing. And that was a very wrong timing. Forgive me for saying this, we diplomats don't often say like that, but wrong timing in the context that it was just before the elections. So the mood of the people was changed by this incident. So whoever the strategists were in the West planning this attack, for whatever reasons they did that, this point I don't know if they took into account. And that will manifest itself. The voters' mood will be affected by that. Then the second factor that is there is the American refusal for the nuclear deal. And the third is the sanctions and how it has affected the life of the people there. So all these factors will play up to the voters' mood for which candidate they will vote for. Although if you read the Western media, they're talking about 7,000 candidates of moderates have been eliminated from
screened out. Right.
But how do you define moderate, and how they have their own perspective.
So how the West defines it and how
Iranians define it would be different. And we as a neighbor have to look at it in its context, not from the Western prism. And therefore, I would say that Iranians are mature people, mature civilization, and I'm sure they'll choose wisely, but there are factors that have played into it and will manifest in the results.
Right. Brief question, Ambassador Naela. Pakistan's role in a divided Muslim world. Now, our relations with Iran are very good, strong. Our relation with Saudi Arabia, for that matter, as Senator Kakar just mentioned. What role Pakistan can play in future, and how do you see Pakistan's role in the Muslim world?
Pakistan, since its inception, has played a very important role in the Muslim world. And we have been cognizant of the challenges and the proxy wars. And we have always had a balancer's role. We do not take sides. We stand on principles, and we support peaceful negotiations and solutions to the problem, and inshallah we will continue to do so.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Ambassador Naela. Pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for your time.